In a world filled with uncertainty and fleeting moments, there are connections that define the very essence of our existence. Alexandra and Nathan, two souls from different walks of life, found each other amidst the chaos. What began as a spark of attraction soon blossomed into something deeper, something that neither of them had anticipated. But not every love story is without its struggles. As Alexandra lies on the bed, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, regret fills the air, and the weight of their past decisions presses on her heart. Nathan watches her, feeling the intensity of her emotions, his concern evident in every glance. They are bound by a love that is both beautiful and painful, a love that they cannot easily walk away from. Their journey is far from over, and the choices they face will shape their futures in ways they could never have imagined. Welcome to Alcott Stories' channel of love, regret, and the undeniable pull between two hearts. Alexandra and Nathan's journey is filled with passion, conflict, and moments that will tug at your heartstrings. As you step into their world, you'll witness the raw emotions and the difficult choices that define their bond. If you're moved by their story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartfelt moments. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts and connect with us on this emotional ride. Your support means the world. Alexandra was the epitome of success, a poised and accomplished project manager, admired for her unflappable demeanor and sharp intellect. In the bustling corridors of her company, she was known for her ability to turn chaos into order, always delivering projects on time and exceeding expectations. But beneath the polished exterior lay a life of hidden complexities. Her days began early, her mornings filled with the hum of coffee machines and the shuffle of spreadsheets. Yet as of late, Alexandra's routine was peppered with unexplained absences. Twice a week, she slipped away from the office under the guise of client meetings. Instead, she found herself sitting in sterile waiting rooms, her heart racing as she awaited test results. It was a medical mystery she was not ready to share, not with her family, not with her friends, and certainly not with her colleagues. Adding to her burdens was Nathan. Theirs was a relationship forged in stolen moments, lingering glances across conference rooms, hushed whispers in elevators, and late-night rendezvous at tucked-away cafes. Nathan was charming and attentive, a stark contrast to Alexandra's controlled demeanor. With him she felt seen, but the secrecy of their affair added another layer of strain to her already complicated life. Her boss, Richard, was a seasoned professional with a keen eye for detail. He began to notice the shifts in Alexandra's behavior, the missed deadlines, the hurried explanations, the way her eyes darted away when questioned. Richard's growing concern was not born of suspicion, but of genuine care. Alexandra was one of his best employees, and her recent inconsistencies were out of character. In the office, whispers began to swirl. Co-workers speculated about Alexandra's absences. Some thought she was interviewing for another job. Others believed she was dealing with personal issues. Only Nathan knew part of the truth, but even he was left in the dark about the medical appointments. Alexandra had grown adept at compartmentalizing her life, yet the cracks were becoming harder to conceal. One day, during a routine team meeting, Richard's concern spilled over. "Alexandra," he said gently as the team dispersed, "can we talk for a moment?" Her heart sank. She followed him to his office, the walls lined with awards and photos from company events. Richard gestured for her to sit. "You've been a cornerstone of this team for years," he began, his tone measured and kind. "But lately, I've noticed you've been distracted. Is there anything you want to share?" Alexandra's eyes welled up, but she quickly blinked the tears away. "It's personal," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. Richard nodded. "I'm not here to pry, but I want you to know that if you need support, professionally or otherwise, we're here for you." His words lingered with her long after the meeting ended. It was a rare moment of vulnerability, one that left her questioning the choices she'd made. That evening, as she sat across from Nathan in their usual corner booth, She finally let the floodgates open. "I'm tired, Nathan," she confessed, her voice trembling. "Of hiding, of pretending, of carrying everything alone." Nathan reached for her hand, his gaze steady. "You don't have to do this by yourself, Alex. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." It was a small promise, but it felt monumental. For the first time, Alexandra allowed herself to believe that she didn't have to bear her burdens alone. The unraveling of her secrets was painful, but it also brought a sense of relief. Slowly, she began to confide in those around her, starting with Nathan and eventually opening up to Richard. As her colleagues learned bits and pieces of her struggles, the office dynamic shifted. The whispers faded, replaced by a quiet understanding and respect. Alexandra's journey was far from over, but she no longer felt the weight of secrecy bearing down on her. In the end, the unraveling of secrets became the catalyst for a new chapter in Alexandra's life. It taught her the value of vulnerability, the strength in seeking help, and the power of authentic connections. Her story served as a reminder to those around her that even the most composed individuals carry unseen battles, and that support, when offered with kindness and understanding, can make all the difference. The meeting room buzzed with an undercurrent of tension as Alex took her usual seat, her mind racing with thoughts that had little to do with the agenda. She forced a smile, attempting to project the image of a confident and focused project manager. But her colleagues weren't blind to her growing distractions. Richard, her boss, had been watching her with a mix of concern and suspicion. He was known for his keen observational skills, and Alex knew it was only a matter of time before he addressed her faltering performance. As the discussion moved to a critical project deadline, Alex felt her phone buzz in her pocket. A text from Nathan. Her heart skipped a beat. She hesitated but couldn't resist a quick glance. "Can we talk tonight?" it read. The simple message sent a ripple of anxiety through her. Nathan's texts had become more frequent and urgent lately, mirroring the emotional whirlwind of their affair. It was both exhilarating and exhausting. "Alex, what's your take on this?" Richard's voice cut through her thoughts, snapping her back to the present. She looked up, realizing too late that she had no idea what had just been discussed. A flush of embarrassment crept up her neck as she stammered an unconvincing response. The room fell silent, the weight of her distraction palpable. After the meeting, Richard called her into his office. His tone was firm, but not unkind. "Alex, you've always been one of our top performers, but lately your focus seems to be elsewhere. Is everything all right?" Alex hesitated, her mind scrambling for an explanation that wouldn't unravel the delicate web of her life. "It's just personal issues. I'm handling them," she said, avoiding his gaze. Richard nodded but didn't look entirely convinced. "I hope you do. You're too talented to let this affect your career." The weight of his words lingered as she left his office. She felt like a tightrope walker, balancing precariously between her professional responsibilities and the emotional chaos of her personal life. Nathan was waiting for her in the parking lot after work. He leaned against his car, his expression a mix of impatience and concern. "We need to talk," he said as she approached. "Not here," Alex hissed, glancing around nervously. They drove to a quiet park, where the tension between them finally erupted. "This isn't sustainable, Alex," Nathan said, his voice tinged with frustration. "I care about you, but Rachel, she's starting to notice. I'm torn and I hate what this is doing to all of us." Hearing Rachel's name felt like a dagger to Alex's heart. She had always been the unspoken presence in their relationship, a shadow that loomed over every stolen moment. "Do you think this is easy for me?" Alex shot back, her voice trembling. "I never wanted to hurt anyone, but I can't help how I feel about you." Nathan ran a hand through his hair, his own turmoil evident. "I don't know what to do anymore. I'm living a lie, and it's eating me alive." The conversation ended without resolution, leaving both of them feeling more conflicted than ever. Alex returned home to her empty apartment, the silence amplifying her guilt and confusion. She poured herself a glass of wine and sat on the couch, replaying the day's events in her mind. Her career was on the line, her emotions were in turmoil, and the weight of her choices was becoming unbearable. Over the next few weeks, Rachel's presence became more pronounced in Alex's life, albeit indirectly. Nathan's growing guilt made him more attentive to his girlfriend, which only deepened Alex's sense of isolation. She began to see Rachel not as a rival, but as an unwitting victim of the same situation that was tearing her apart. One evening, Alex found herself scrolling through Rachel's social media profiles. She saw photos of Rachel and Nathan together, their smiles radiating a happiness that Alex could only envy. For the first time, she felt a pang of empathy for the woman she had tried so hard to ignore. Rachel wasn't just a name or an obstacle. She was a person with her own dreams and feelings. This realization sparked a deep internal conflict in Alex. She began to question the path she was on, and whether the fleeting moments of happiness with Nathan were worth the pain it was causing everyone involved. The affair, once a source of excitement and escape, was now a prison of her own making. As Alex grappled with the consequences of her choices, she found herself at a crossroads. The time had come to make a decision that would define not just her relationship with Nathan, but also her own sense of integrity and self-worth. The weight of her actions loomed over her, a constant reminder that every choice comes with consequences, and some are far more costly than others. Alex stared at the pregnancy test in her trembling hands, the two bold lines staring back at her like an unspoken truth she could no longer avoid. Her mind swirled with a tempest of emotions, fear, guilt, and a flicker of hope she dared not embrace. It wasn't supposed to be like this. The affair with Nathan had been her escape, a sanctuary from the relentless grind of her professional life and the gnawing loneliness she felt despite her successes. But now, that escape had left her with a life-altering reality. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring out the window as the city buzzed on without her. Every thought spiraled back to the same question: what now? She had always prided herself on control, on her ability to navigate the complexities of her life with grace and precision. But this was uncharted territory. Summoning her courage, Alex decided to meet Nathan to share the news. She chose a quiet cafe, its dim lighting and soft jazz music a stark contrast to the turmoil in her heart. When Nathan arrived, his easy charm felt almost cruel in its familiarity. She watched his face carefully as she spoke, her voice steady but her hands gripping her coffee cup like a lifeline. I'm pregnant, she said, the words hanging in the air between them. Nathan's smile faltered, replaced by an expression she couldn't quite decipher. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair as he processed the news. "Are you sure?" he finally asked, his voice low. Alex nodded. "I took 2 tests. There's no doubt." The silence that followed was deafening. Alex felt the weight of it pressing down on her, a tangible reminder of the choices that had led her here. When Nathan finally spoke, his words were measured but distant. This complicates things." It was all she needed to hear. In that moment, Alex realized that the fleeting comfort Nathan had provided could never sustain the life growing inside her. She had been searching for solace, for validation, but now she needed something more. She needed stability, courage, and a path forward that didn't depend on someone else. "I'm ending this," Alex said, her voice firm despite the tears welling in her eyes. "I can't keep living like this, Nathan. I have to think about my child's future and mine." Nathan's protests were half-hearted, his inability to offer anything concrete solidifying her decision. She walked out of the cafe feeling both shattered and strangely liberated. For the first time in months, Alex felt like she was taking control of her life rather than letting it control her. But her challenges were far from over. Back at the office, Richard's patience was wearing thin. He had noticed her declining performance, the missed deadlines, the distracted air she carried into meetings. When he called her into his office, Alex knew the conversation would be pivotal. "Alex," Richard began, his tone firm but not unkind. "I've always respected your work ethic, but lately, it's clear something's going on. I need transparency if we're going to move forward." For a moment, Alex considered spinning another half-truth, another carefully constructed excuse. But she was tired of the facade. Taking a deep breath, she met Richard's gaze. "You're right. I've been struggling. There's a lot happening in my personal life that I've let bleed into my work. I'm sorry." Richard studied her for a long moment before nodding. "I appreciate your honesty, Alex. We all go through difficult times, but this job requires focus. Take the weekend to figure out what you need to do to get back on track. I'm willing to work with you, but I need to see commitment on your end." Alex left his office feeling a mix of relief and determination. She had been given a second chance, and she wasn't going to waste it. That weekend, she began to reassess her priorities. She reached out to her close friends, admitting she needed their support. She made a plan to speak with her family about her pregnancy, knowing their guidance would be invaluable. As the days turned into weeks, Alex started to rebuild. She threw herself into her work with renewed focus, proving to Richard and herself that she could rise above her circumstances. She attended prenatal classes and began preparing for motherhood, each step solidifying her commitment to her new path. The storm had broken, leaving Alex to pick up the pieces. But in the aftermath, she discovered a strength she hadn't known she possessed. She wasn't just surviving, she was creating a new life for herself and her child, one built on honesty, resilience, and the promise of a brighter future. Alex sat in her modest apartment, the soft glow of a lamp casting shadows on the walls. The reality of her pregnancy had shifted her priorities entirely. No longer was she the polished project manager chasing perfection. Now she was a mother-to-be, determined to provide a life of stability and love for her unborn child. The decision to break things off with Nathan had been excruciating, but Alex knew it was necessary. The fleeting moments of passion they shared couldn't outweigh the damage their relationship had caused. She had to think beyond herself, beyond him, and focus on the tiny life growing within her. She dialed her mother, a pillar of strength and wisdom. "Mom, I need your help," Alex admitted, her voice trembling with vulnerability. It had been years since she had leaned on her mother for support, but now she needed her more than ever. Her mother didn't hesitate. "Of course, sweetheart. Whatever you need." Together they began preparing for Alex's journey into single motherhood. Her mother's home became a sanctuary for baby clothes, supplies, and nursery items. The scent of freshly painted walls and the sound of gentle lullabies playing from a speaker became symbols of hope. "You're stronger than you think, Alex," her mother said one evening, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "This child is lucky to have you." Meanwhile, Nathan's reaction to the breakup spiraled into chaos. At first, he tried to win Alex back, showing up unannounced with flowers and promises. When that didn't work, his demeanor shifted. Late-night calls turned into accusations. "You can't just shut me out," he hissed during one heated exchange. "That's my child, too." Alex's resolve never wavered. "Our child deserves a life free from instability, Nathan. If you can't get your act together, I'll do this alone." Nathan's erratic behavior became a cause for concern. He began showing up at her workplace, leading to whispered gossip among colleagues. Alex felt the weight of judgment, but her primary concern was her child's safety. Seeking legal advice, she decided to file for sole custody of her unborn baby. "It's a bold move," her lawyer admitted, "but given his behavior, you have a strong case." The custody battle played out in courtrooms filled with tension. Nathan's lawyer painted him as a man desperate to be part of his child's life, while Alex's legal team highlighted his instability and lack of commitment. It was a painful, public airing of their private failings. Each hearing left Alex emotionally drained, but Her mother's unwavering presence kept her grounded. One afternoon, during a particularly grueling session, Nathan's voice cracked as he addressed the court. "I just want to be a good father," he said, tears streaming down his face. For a moment, Alex saw a glimpse of the man she had once cared for, but her resolve remained firm. She had given him chances before, and now her child's future was at stake. In the end, the court awarded Alex sole custody, with Nathan granted supervised visitation. The decision was a bittersweet victory. As she left the courthouse, Alex felt a mix of relief and sorrow. She had fought for her child's well-being, but the journey had taken its toll. Back home, Alex stood in the nursery, her hand resting on her growing belly. "We're going to be okay," she whispered to her unborn child. Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't just tears of sadness. They were tears of hope, determination, and love. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she also knew she had the strength to face whatever challenges came her way. Alex's story was far from over. It was a story of resilience, of a mother's unwavering resolve to protect and nurture her child. It was a story that, despite its heartaches, held the promise of brighter days ahead. The day of the custody hearing arrived, and the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Alex sat beside her attorney, her heart pounding as she prepared to face Nathan. She had spent countless sleepless nights dreading this moment, not because she doubted her love and ability to care for her unborn child, but because of the ugly truths she knew would be dredged up. Nathan entered the courtroom with a swagger that was at odds with the solemnity of the occasion. His attorney had advised him to present himself as a devoted father-to-be, but his performance was tinged with arrogance. Alex felt a pang of sorrow. This was the man she had once believed could be a partner, but now he stood on the opposite side of a battle that should never have been necessary. The proceedings began with Nathan's attorney attempting to dismantle Alex's character. They painted her as a woman who had prioritized her career over her personal life, implying that she lacked the maternal instincts necessary to raise a child. They dredged up her past relationship with Nathan, twisting the narrative to suggest instability and poor judgment. Alex listened in silence, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. She wanted to lash out to defend herself, but her lawyer had warned her to remain calm. This was not a battle of emotions. It was a war of evidence and credibility. When it was Alex's turn to testify, she took a deep breath and walked to the stand. She spoke candidly about her relationship with Nathan, admitting her mistakes but emphasizing her commitment to her child's well-being. Her voice trembled as she described the steps she had taken to prepare for motherhood, from seeking prenatal care to securing financial stability. "I may not be perfect," she said, her eyes meeting the judge's, "but I will do everything in my power to give my child a safe, loving home." Nathan's cross-examination was as aggressive as expected. His attorney questioned her ability to balance single motherhood with her demanding career, insinuating that her decision to end the relationship was selfish. But Alex held her ground, refusing to let their tactics rattle her. The turning point came when Rachel, Nathan's ex-girlfriend, was called to testify. Her presence was unexpected, and the courtroom buzzed with murmurs. Rachel's testimony was both damning and revealing. She recounted instances of Nathan's irresponsibility, his erratic behavior, and his failure to honor commitments. "I was with Nathan for years," Rachel said, her voice steady but tinged with sadness. "He has a pattern of making promises he doesn't keep. I don't believe he's ready to be a responsible parent." Nathan's composure cracked as Rachel spoke. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his earlier bravado replaced by a growing sense of defeat. When it was his turn to testify, his arguments lacked the conviction needed to sway the court. His lawyer's attempts to salvage the case fell flat. After hours of testimony and deliberation, the judge delivered the verdict. In the best interests of the child, primary custody is awarded to Ms. Alexandra Scott. Mr. Nathan Carter, will have supervised visitation rights, contingent upon his completion of a parenting program. Alex felt a wave of relief wash over her as the judge's words sank in. She had won, not just for herself but for her child. Nathan looked deflated, his gaze fixed on the table in front of him. As Alex left the courtroom, she felt a mix of emotions: relief, exhaustion, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. The road ahead would be challenging, but she was ready to face it. Her child's future was worth every battle fought and every tear shed. For the first time in months, she felt a glimmer of hope, a belief that she could build the life she and her child deserved. Outside the courthouse, Alex's mother hugged her tightly, whispering words of encouragement. "You did it, sweetheart. You stood your ground." Alex nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. She looked up at the sky, silently vowing to be the best mother she could be. This was just the beginning, but it was a beginning she could embrace with courage and determination. The courtroom victory marked a turning point in Alex's life. For the first time in months, the weight of uncertainty lifted, leaving behind a clearer path to the future. But even with custody secured, Alex knew the journey was far from over. The scars of the past year, the affair, the heartbreak, and the battle for her child would take time to heal. Still, she was ready to start anew, armed with the lessons she had learned and the unwavering love she held for her unborn child. Back at the office, Alex approached her professional life with renewed determination. She threw herself into her projects, her focus sharper than ever. Her colleagues, once skeptical and distant, began to take notice of her transformation. Even Richard, her boss, who had once questioned her commitment, called her into his office one afternoon. "I have to admit, Alex," Richard began, his expression softening, "you've impressed me. Not just with your work, but with the strength you've shown through everything. That kind of resilience is rare." Alex felt her throat tighten with emotion, but she managed a small smile. "Thank you, Richard. It means a lot coming from you." He slid a folder across the desk. "I've been considering this for a while. There's a promotion available, Senior Project Manager. I think you're ready for it." The words caught Alex off guard. For so long, she had felt like she was treading water, barely keeping afloat. But this offer was a lifeline, a validation of her hard work and growth. "I won't let you down," she promised, her voice steady with resolve. At home, her personal life also began to stabilize. Her mother became her strongest pillar of support, helping her prepare for the baby's arrival. From decorating the nursery to attending prenatal classes together, their bond deepened in ways Alex hadn't anticipated. Then, one evening, as they sat sorting through baby clothes, there was a knock at the door. When Alex opened it, she found her father standing there, a hesitant smile on his face. "Hi, Alex," he said, his voice tinged with regret. "I was hoping we could talk." Alex felt a whirlwind of emotions. Her father had been distant for most of her adult life, his absence a constant ache in her heart. But now, as he stood before her, there was something in his eyes, a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. They sat in the living room, the air heavy with unspoken words. Finally, her father broke the silence. "I wasn't there for you when you needed me. I made mistakes, and I can't change the past. But I want to be here now, for you and for my grandchild." Tears welled in Alex's eyes. "It hurt, Dad. For a long time I felt like you didn't care." "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "And I'm so sorry, but I want to make amends, if you'll let me." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a jade pendant, its surface smooth and cool to the touch. "This belonged to your grandmother," he explained. "She gave it to me when I was struggling, and she told me it was a symbol of strength and resilience. I think it's time I pass it on to you." Alex's fingers trembled as she took the pendant, its weight both literal and symbolic. It was more than a piece of jewelry. It was a bridge between the past and the future, a reminder of the strength that ran through her family. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. From that moment, their relationship began to heal. Her father became a regular presence in her life, offering advice, sharing stories, and even helping to assemble furniture for the nursery. The once strained family dynamic slowly transformed into a source of comfort and joy. As her due date approached, Alex found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She'd faced betrayal, heartbreak, and immense challenges, but she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The jade pendant around her neck became a daily reminder of her strength and the support system that now surrounded her. On a crisp spring morning, Alex gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Holding her daughter for the first time, she felt an overwhelming surge of love and purpose. In that moment, all the struggles, all the pain, felt worth it. She named her daughter Jade, after the pendant and the lessons it symbolized. As Alex looked around the hospital room, filled with her parents, her mother beaming and her father cradling his granddaughter, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life hadn't turned out the way she had planned, but it had brought her to a place of healing, hope, and love. Alex whispered to her sleeping daughter, "You've already given me the greatest gift, a chance to start over, to be better. And I promise I'll do everything I can to give you the best life possible." With her family by her side and her career back on track, Alex was ready to embrace the future. She had faced the storm and come out stronger, her heart full of love and her spirit unbroken. The jade pendant rested against her chest, a constant reminder that even in the face of life's greatest challenges, redemption and rebuilding were always possible. In the heart of snow-covered Boston, Alex sat by the window, her hands gently cradling her growing belly. The world outside was blanketed in a soft, serene layer of snow, and yet, the storm within her heart had finally calmed. The uncertainty that had once gripped her soul had faded, replaced by a deep, peaceful knowing. This was her moment to reflect, to process, and to prepare for the life ahead, one she would share with her unborn daughter, Lynn. Alex's heart beat with a mixture of love and anticipation, knowing that this new chapter was more than just the beginning of motherhood. It was the culmination of years of struggles, dreams, losses, and triumphs. As she sat, her thoughts wandered back to the painful moments in her past. There was a time when she had felt lost, confused, and unsure of who she was. But now, as she prepared to bring a new life into the world, she realized that every step, every heartache, had led her here. With a deep breath, Alex reached for her pen and opened her journal. She began writing letters to Lynn, the little girl who had yet to be born but already had her heart. "My dearest Lynn," she wrote, "I want to tell you about the lessons I've learned, the things I wish for you to understand. I want you to know that life is not always easy, but it is beautiful in its own way." She paused for a moment, her hand resting on her belly as she thought of the woman she had become. In the quiet moments of winter, surrounded by the people who loved her, she found the courage to face her truth. She had always tried to protect herself and others from her vulnerabilities, but now, in the light of impending motherhood, she understood that true strength lies in embracing those very vulnerabilities. Her journey had taught her that it was okay to feel fear. It was okay to have doubts. But in those moments of uncertainty, she discovered something remarkable: resilience. Through every challenge, through every tear, she had become stronger. And now, as a mother, she vowed to pass on that strength to Lynn. "I want you to know," Alex wrote, "that strength is not something you find in pretending to be invincible. It's in allowing yourself to feel, to break, and to rise again. Strength is in the moments when you're most vulnerable, because that is when you discover who you truly are." As she wrote, The sound of the snow gently falling outside seemed to mirror the quiet storm of emotions swirling within her. In the stillness, Alex felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The love she had for Lynn, the hope she held for their future, and the certainty that she would guide her daughter with wisdom and grace filled her heart. In the years to come, Alex knew she would share these letters with Lynn when the time was right. She would tell her daughter about the moments of doubt and fear, but also about the incredible power of love, the love that had brought her to this point. She wanted Lynn to know that no matter the obstacles, love would always be her guide, her anchor, her strength. And then, Alex thought of courage. True courage. Not the kind of bravery that comes from avoiding fear, but the kind that comes from facing it head-on. She had learned that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to move forward despite it. It's in choosing love even when it feels impossible, in trusting yourself when the world seems uncertain. She looked out the window again, watching the snowflakes dance in the breeze, each one unique, yet part of a greater whole. Life was like that, she thought. We are all different, but we share this incredible journey together, and no matter how many times we fall, we have the ability to rise again, to choose a new path, to make a new beginning. As Alex wrote, she reflected on the concept of redemption. She had made mistakes, like everyone else. But in her heart, she knew that redemption wasn't about perfection. It was about making amends, learning from the past, and growing from it. Redemption was about choosing to be better, to do better, no matter how many times life knocked you down. I want you to know, Lynn, Alex wrote, her words flowing from her heart, that you are loved more than you will ever know. And you will make mistakes too. But that's okay. What matters is how you rise from them. What matters is how you love yourself and others. She paused again, placing her hand on her heart. The weight of those words filled her with a deep sense of gratitude. She had come so far, and now she was ready. Ready to teach Lynn the things she had learned, the importance of love, the power of vulnerability, and the strength found in redemption. Alex smiled as she wrote the final line of her letter. You are my greatest gift, Lynn, and together, we will face the world, one chapter at a time. In the quiet of that snow-covered evening, Alex felt a profound sense of peace. The love she had for her daughter, and the hope she held for their future, would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. This new chapter was just the beginning, and Alex was ready to embrace it with open arms and a full heart.